want to Eli 5 the HRE for me for like...
Sure. So the Holy Roman Empire was a decentralized collection of German states, or a confederation, I should say. And it was established by, well, the first ruler was Charlemagne, and he was proclaimed Holy Roman Emperor by the Pope because the Roman Empire had collapsed, and you know, the idea of Rome being this grandiose thing that was destined to rule Europe, etc. Blah 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 blah. So it's essentially like a little bit of a continuation. Well, it's an inspiration, I guess, inspired by Roman history.
Yeah,
and
they're like,
wanting
we
to have...
liked that. Let's have that again.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Because obviously the Pope had somewhat of a role in Roman history, or rather the Archdiocese of Roma did. Essentially that is that it was a confederation of states with a elected official. And so there were elector states who helped decide. There was EU4 simplifies elector states to be, I think even this game maybe simplifies it probably too much. There were a lot of electors, and essentially they just had a mass vote, and then whoever won the vote became the next Holy Roman Emperor. They were the King of the Romans, King of the Germans, and were responsible for protecting the German people, essentially. Because it's so decentralized, it had a lot of issues with its sort of power structure, and there's all sorts of, people getting their votes paid for, and all that jazz.
You know what? If bribery is good enough for the government, it's good enough for me. Can we get 5 gifted to Clio, please?
Keep
going.
No.
I'm listening.
Give him to Matera. Give him to Matera.
I'm listening.
So there's basically, there's, and also the Byzantine Emperor and the Pope were having a little bit of a beef at the time. Oh, thank you very much.
I love when
guys.
they have that beef.
That's very generous.
So the Pope was like, you know what? Screw you. Yeah. We're making our own Rome. You suck.
Yeah, exactly. Essentially, it existed for, the last one was 1810, and it was founded during the reign of Charlemagne, so that's a good thousands.
Hey, not bad. Years. That's not bad at all.
1,000 or so years of existing, so it lasted a long time, and then Napoleon decided to blow it up.
That's Napoleon for
you. As he did with a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like my poor beloved Republic of Venice.
Oh, wait. Napoleon blew that up. Oh, Napoleon.
He basically said the Republic of Venice was hyper defensive because of its natural fortifications of the lagoon, right? Napoleon rocked up with a boatload of cannons and said, surrender or I shoot you. And they said, we'll never surrender. So he shot and then them. They said, we surrender.
Let's go.
So yeah, that was 1,400 years of history ended in the blink of an eye.
Hey, I know a lot of people like to talk shit about Napoleon. I just have to say, remember when he got the one thing I gotta say to my people. All right, I'm Ukrainian, but back then, the great Russian Empire. Napoleon, for being this crazy war guy, decided to go to Moscow in winter.
He did.
He f***ed up. 1812. He f***ed up. That's what he did. He made a grand... people there, by the way, had, no guns, no shoes, no bread. They were gonna lose. No? And then they burned Moscow. By they, I mean, the Russians burned their own city so that Napoleon would have nothing, and he would have to go back crawling.
Yeah, I think I covered the basic gist of it.
Yeah.
So
basically, the Pope was a little bit mad at the Byzantines, and he was like, you know what, guys? You guys aren't really Roman. I'm going to make my own Romans.
With blackjack and
hookers.
Maybe hookers.
Yeah, and decentralized government. So for the votes, who voted?
So basically most of the members of the empire voted. There was essentially these elector princes who had the privilege. So not everyone got to vote, but so if you look at the Holy Roman Empire in game, right? If you look at how many little states there is, the game abstracts it, maybe times the map by 1,000 or 100 different little polities and states and little regions and kingdoms, and then imagine each one of them, not every single one of them, but a lot of them all have the right to vote.
Is everyone's vote counted the same?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
So there's a lot there in the game. Imagine it.
Even more.
But even more, because the game does abstract a lot of history. Oh, the Prince Electors did have more votes. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, because I was gonna say there's a guy there that his vote strength
Mm-hmm.
is costing more because of imperial dignity. Interesting.
I wonder if there's some sort of game abstraction going on there. I'm not too sure.
And they lasted a damn long time. That is wild. All because the Pope
Decent amount of
had
time.
some beef.
Yeah. I do not underestimate people's pettiness to create empires, in spite of others. There
Have
were
you
times
ever-
in history
sorry.
where the Pope was the most important person in Europe / the world.
Yeah. I mean, the whole point, right? What is it? Protestantism. The whole point was it was crazy for a ruler, a king, to not get permission from the Pope to get married or divorced. Like, you needed. That's why Henry, whatever his name was, the one that beheaded Henry VIII. Like, the whole reason he started Protestantism was to protest, right, the faith. And he was like, no, I'm gonna get a divorce. I am the king. I am God's chosen, or whatever the hell he was saying. What do you mean you won't grant me a divorce? Grant me a divorce! And like, you just couldn't do that without the Pope's. The Pope needed to say yes.
Fun fact about Henry VIII is that the Pope actually considered him the defender of the faith and gave him the title of defender of the faith. And then he turned around about 20, 30 years later and said, oh, actually...
Wait, who was he fighting? Because I thought he
that.
only really fought in France. That was the only place that he was interested in fighting in, no?
So, fun fact, he actually wrote an essay against Martin Luther, who is if you're not aware, he was the sort of founder of the Protestant movement that resulted in the rise of, the Protestant states and whatnot. So, and Lutheranism and all that jazz. Henry sort of disavowed Protestantism, and then a few decades later said, I'm gonna make my own version of that.
Yeah.
So he made Anglicanism, and there you go.
I always forget, the Anglican Church, which it's basically Protestantism light, Protestantism minus.
Yeah, I think it's the one that is closest to Catholicism, I guess, in terms of like tenets and whatnot. It's pretty close. There's some obvious differences, but didn't stop people killing each other for
of course not.
Good 500 years.
That's how I feel with so I grew up, I'm not very religious, but I grew up the woman whose body I live inside, Ukrainian Orthodox. So it's like,
yes.
It's just like Greek Orthodoxy, but not quite. It's
not
just
quite.
like Catholicism, but not quite. It's the same Bible, but like even just the smallest example of like when we walk into a church and I don't know how to say it in English, but there's like, you do like the not the prayer, but like you put your fingers to your temple, to your forehead, to your belly, and then on your shoulders. What is it called in English? That gesture.
I'm not sure. I don't know what that gesture is. I was raised Catholic. Oh, you mean genuflect?
Genuflect. Yeah, like where you go like you put your fingers to your forehead, you put your fingers to your belly, you put them
I was thinking you were doing them at the same time with like multiple hands.
No.
You somehow had a third hand and you were touching everything.
I do
like,
have
like
6 claws. I have 8
You're like patting your head and rubbing your tummy.
Yeah.
Can you do that?
No,
I thought you were doing that.
I can. No. So, for example, I know the Catholics, they take 2 fingers to do it, but the Orthodox, we take 3 fingers to do it. Because Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Sorry.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit. So we take 3 fingers to do it. And then little differences, like in some of the religious imagery, a lot of Catholicism really, really focuses, I think, on like Mother Mary and stuff like that.
Yep.
And a lot of Orthodoxy focuses on Jesus' suffering. And also there's a really big thing of like the Holy Spirit. And I feel like the Holy Spirit isn't super mentioned in Catholicism as much. Like it's there, but not that much.
It's there. Yeah, I'm definitely probably more agnostic now, so I'm trying to wrap my brain
me too.
from
Don't
stuff
worry.
from my childhood.
I'm like trying to remember from way.
Yes, genuflecting is kneeling. Sign of the cross, yes.
No, I'm talking about the one where it's like, when also another thing about I don't know if it's the same thing for a lot of Catholics, but for example, for Ukrainian Orthodoxy, if you, and this is like to this day, right? Obviously, if you're like going to a Ukrainian church, I don't know, in Western Canada, it's less strict, but you're supposed to be covering your hair as a woman if you are quote
Yeah.
unquote, no longer a virgin.
Right.
Yeah, because that
Okay.
means, you're like off the wedding market. Like, this is still a thing. It's crazy.
Huh.
Yeah. In this day and age.
Just sounds like an excuse to be fashionable.
Sounds like an excuse to be fashionable. Yeah. That's why, by the
Mm-hmm.
way, that's why, so another thing that people don't know. So for Eastern Europeans, they'll always say babushka, which is like the old grandmother with her hair covered.
Yes.
Right? That's why she has her hair covered, by the way.
Right. Because
That's why she's had kids. She's off the marriage market. All that. She's not a virgin. That's why like all those grandmothers are wearing the headdresses. Obviously, whenever communism came in, there was not really a religion. It was kind of hush hush. But yeah, that is like a little thing that it's one of those things that people don't really realize it because it's not really spoken as much, but it is a thing.
It's one of those things that you just take at face value and you never read into.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, of course, babushkas have their hair covered.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a thing that babushkas do.
But then you look at it, and you're like, wait a second, they're doing this because of church.
Yeah. That's cool. Thank you for telling me.
Yeah, the more you know.